It's Thursday. My name's Graham Codrington. This is the future. Well, it's whenever you're listening or watching this, of course. This week in the ThrowForward Thursday studio, I'd like to just remind you about the Tomorrow Today podcast. My colleague Buhle Dlamini and I are putting a wonderful series together on mapping the future of business. And we're looking at the characteristics of organizations that we believe are going to be successful, not just in the next few years, but well into the 2030s. And are setting themselves up for success by doing things differently. Each episode of the Tomorrow Today podcast has a look at a different aspect of the characteristics of businesses that we believe are going to be future fit. I'm going to give you a little excerpt now. This excerpt is from episode 2 of the Tomorrow Today podcast, and it's my colleague Buhle interviewing another of our colleagues, the CEO of our consulting team, Dean van Leeuwen, as he talks about some of the techniques that our consulting team uses in order to make sure that our clients' strategies are really future fit. And well, it's a little excerpt. If you like what you hear and you want to get more detail, of course, sign up for the Tomorrow Today podcast. You can do that on any podcast platform. Otherwise, go to tomorrowtodayglobal.com/podcast to find all the links to the various podcast platforms. Have a listen to Buhle and Dean talking about the future of organizational design. This is episode 2 of the Tomorrow Today podcast. Just a sample.
So how do you help organizations avoid that strategic trap or pitfall?
We've developed what we call a 3-dimensional strategy framework. And the 3-dimensional strategy, the first dimension is really your foundational, your strategic foundation. And that's all about your purpose, your values, your culture of your organization. And these have to be aligned to your true north. The next dimension is your strategic essentials. And these are the things that you have to do well in order to be an efficient and effective organization and to compete well. And then the third dimension is all about your strategic differentiators. What's going to differentiate you from your competitors? What's going to make you different? How are you going to elevate your performance? So that's the 3D model. We look at one of your foundational elements. We look at what are the strategic essentials, things you have to do, and then your differentiators. How you think about your strategy, I guess, is it compartmentalizes the process and the things that you need to be doing. And what we see is a lot of companies focus just on the sort of the second dimension. They'll say, what do we have to do to compete well and be effective and efficient and be cost effective and so on. And they solely sort of blinkered on that aspect. The 3D model helps them to think about the other really powerful, this holistic sort of viewpoint of strategy, that they're aligning the foundational points, but also thinking importantly about what's going to make real elevated performance, those differentiators. So it helps them to think about all 3 angles.
Fascinating stuff. I'm sure that you will agree. If you'd like to hear that full interview as well as the rest of the conversation that Buhle and I had, including a number of recommended resources and a lot of additional information about mapping the future of business, make sure that you subscribe to the Tomorrow Today podcast. You can go to tomorrowtodayglobal.com/podcast and you will find links to all the various podcast platforms, or just search for us, the Tomorrow Today podcast, on the podcast platform of your choice. By the way, if you like what you hear, please won't you like, subscribe, and even give us a review. I'd really appreciate that, and it helps other people to find us as well. Otherwise, as always, thank you for joining me in the ThrowForward Thursday studio. I'll see you again next week with another insight into the future of business. I'll see you then.